It's Chastia. I know it's a little dark over here. It's 12:41 a.m. It's 12:41 a.m. on June 6th, 2024. So, first of all, today is a 6D day. Now, we had another 60 day before yesterday, which might still be your night time. So I think, what is it, Wednesday? Thursday. It's now Thursday. So Wednesday was a 4D day that was in between two 60 days. Now, we're going to have more of these as the years progress, especially in June and July. Last year, in 2023, charting this shift, because it's building every single year from the energetics that we laid and the cosmic alignments that happened the year before. I've been slowly watching it build and build and build and progress whenever you start learning how the wheel and all the human energy is balancing in it. And those of us that are dominating certain star points and energy points, we, the humans in the bubble, are the crystals. So it works like, I'll give you an example. 2017, 2018, when we were all working together, bringing in this energy, because this energy wasn't here in this bubble then. So we would wait, charting the new moons and the full moons. We might wait 2 or 3 months for a moon, a sun, a planet, something. But when the sun and the moon on a new moon or full moon hit a star point, so we could put out our crystals. Do y'all remember this? We would have to put out our crystals. We'd have to charge them up in the sun or in the moon energy and then bring them into the house. And that's literally how us as a collective started tuning in to these star seed points that we were all down here in a certain sequence to balance out and keep the whole thing balanced as we were coming up. Makes sense, right? But now we're the crystals. The human body is the crystal. All of the DNA that's attached into those star points and that energy has now come in, it's connected, it's balanced out, it's sourced out. Every single low frequency type of energy, this has all happened in all of the higher realms. But it takes time for those energy frequencies to hit the different ethers layers and dimensional layers and different levels of human consciousness and imprint. And that's what builds every single year. So, this is how we all know this is over. We know, all of us that are really in the know that we won this battle, that it's been done. We know that because we fought it out and did specific maneuvers up into the ethers. Before you even get to a place where you would even see something falling out of the sky, for instance. If you see an orb falling out of the sky, or all those things that we had reported in the past year, all these anomalies and lights that are falling out of the sky and da 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 da. Start keeping a calendar of that in a way to show you what I'm talking about if you're not already tracking this. This is the reason that I'm talking about this right now, because part of keeping your sanity during this process and being able to make sense of what's coming in to your experience is what I'm talking about right now. If you're not keeping track of, in some way, whatever way that is for you, of what some of these things that happen, whether you see something in the sky, you see it, somebody reported it on TikTok, or there's a massive CME, or there's a swarm of earthquakes. I mean, each of us chart different things. Each of us take little notes on different things. But if you're not doing that, then you can't go back and look what happened last year, what happened 2 years ago on this day. And then even further than that, because remember, this all started 2017. Just like I talked to you in the beginning of this video talking about, y'all remember when we used to have to put our crystals out? I mean, sometimes they would forget to put the moon out. Literally. 2017, 2018, they were forgetting to put the moon out. We as ancients were all like, that's what we had, our little group, and that's why we were activated and awakened when we were, so that us as a vessel crystal could hold that energetic when it moved off that star point. So it's like when it hits that star point, then it's going to create an insurgence now, and then that energy is going to stay. Well, this isn't just no normal new moon. This is not just a normal new moon. We have, look at this. Venus, and it might be backwards. Venus just jumped the sun. Right now, at this very second, the sun is at 1601 and Venus is at 1627 Gemini. And one of us, when in the double A's and in the crew, I think it was Linda. I can't remember if I said that wrong. But I remember on the last video, the really long live at the end, she was like, my North Node is 15 degrees Gemini. And like, as soon as I hung up from that video and then I heard that again, I remembered, oh crap, that's where this lineup's going to happen. So FYI, whoever that was. Or if you have any energy in Gemini, 12 to 16 degrees, or really just any energy in Gemini, period. And I'm going to explain this. 16 degrees is where this new moon is happening. Well, the thing is, Venus is right on top of the sun. So this is literally black hole sun, won't you come and wash away the rain. I haven't tuned up. I haven't sang in a while. I need to start singing again. But we've got, I mean, like my mind just like whenever I'm describing that Arcturus sun way out there and it's lining up over M2 and then it's lining up over the simulation sun, right? This is Venus on top in alignment with the sun, and then the moon's gonna go across it at 16 degrees. Well, 12 to 16 degrees of Gemini, I call it in Cohue 32 raw consciousness. R-A. Raw consciousness. Now, if I was going to play the galactic game for complete power and control and try to keep the astronomy stuff named after and keep the mythology and keep Alpha Draconic the way it ended up, 16 degrees Gemini is going to be Rigel. Now, Rigel and Thuban are going to be your deepest star points, furthest out. Rigel is at 16 degrees Gemini. Thuban is in Virgo, which is basically, it's a black hole. I forgot what I call. I think I call it a hybridization point, or maybe it is just a black hole. Now I can't remember what I call it in Cohue 32. those two are the deepest down into the core, basically from like it from just the deepest density, which is why Thuban was the royal house of Alpha Draconic, and that's in Virgo, which ended up being a black hole in order to what? Line up into our genome, line up from a density to where they could bring down our density of the human race so that they could infiltrate it. But in Gemini, and even just in the original wheel, before that got all freaking crazy, right? Even back into like the Egyptian times, or how it all got built, because we talk about it all the time, you know, why it was built and what it was there for is not how it ended up in end days. It's why it's so confusing. You want to think of it as the deepest point connected into Sagittarius, not deep out into space, but the deepest connection into like an etheric body, a spirit body, a template, because it's that energy is going to be coming from Sagittarius. Like if Sagittarius had a deep hole and Gemini had a deep hole, well, from Gemini 12 to 16 degrees to Sagittarius 12 to 16 degrees is where those are going to connect in order to project into Gemini a template that's based on the cosmos, and it's based on all the reason that you have burials and the original tombs of the Egyptians, and how and why we buried where we buried, and how it's one big cosmic circuit board, and blah 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 blah. Well, that is 12 to 16 degrees of Gemini, and this Venus, Sun, Moon lineup, which is all about the feminine, which is all about these us being able to hold these projections and these denser energies, is what this lineup is all about. It's what it's all about right now. Now, we had a 60-day on Tuesday, and then yesterday, which was my today, because I haven't gone to sleep yet, and our crew, oh my gosh, it was chaos, but it was more like controlled chaos. It's nothing like it was a couple of years ago, you know, us coming through this, and I want to talk about that in a second, how the energy's changed in the past 3 or 4 days. And like, stuff came up for me today that happened in 2014 that was on my computer, but I didn't see it until today. And it came up again in 2022, but I didn't even know that something had happened significant about my name being lied upon, and had some information about it in an email. But it just came up for me to see it today. Timelines switched, because the 6th dimension is a big deal, because that's the 6th root race. And basically you can think of the 6th root race and the 6th dimension is everybody unconscious in like star ring, or everybody unconscious and being controlled in some way, or in factions and in groups, being tuned. Nobody's conscious, or an avatar. Everybody had turned into avatars. That would be like a 6th dimensional space, because the 6th dimension is ruled by the king's chamber. The king's chamber in Egypt takes it to the 15th dimension. The queen's chamber holds the 13th dimension. So it's like Osiris's stuff from the sixth dimension. And this is why we're seeing so many messages about the masculine and da 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 da. But I mean, gosh, this for all of us feminines. It's like we're going through a bigger shift than they are even. Like they just got their bubble cracked. Their blister popped. Their shoes are now hurting. for us feminines that have walked this, we're having to make some even bigger adjustments. But that's since it was a 6D day and then a 4D day and then a 6D day, it was like yesterday or Wednesday was all about making that jump because we changed the sixth root race. You can basically think of it, and I watched Divergence today, and I hadn't watched it in a really long time. And if you haven't watched it in a really long time, go watch it again, because basically all of us had infiltrated the sixth root race. Well, it's actually like we ended up there because Osiris didn't wake up. We're like, rah, 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 we're under attack, and freaking Osiris in there, and this was the whole thing about putting Osiris back together. And then what we figured out is the feminine collective is, oh my gosh, we've been putting these motherfuckers back together, and then they just blow them up, and then we put them back together, and they just blow them up because they just want us to put them back together so that we'll heal their body. And then you get to then you have to complete the Isis Osiris piece within yourself. So then it's like your feminine side is done, but your masculine side isn't, because you put somebody back together, but they didn't even show up. They just were walking around in the sixth root race record, right? So then whenever you're the feminine side and you've already put your feminine back together, and then you had to do the masculine's job, but then the masculine didn't accept his healing, so then you had to literally put your own Osiris back together and then merge them together. Is what we're having to do. It's what's happening right now. And I know that was a lot and it felt like a big loopy loop, but yeah, that part. These 6D days were also going to be more of what was written on. So what the Ilmen or the Masonic or societies and the ones that had all of this knowledge that I'm telling you now, that 6D timeline would be one that was heavily controlled and written as to what's supposed to happen next. Well, that is switched. And Wednesday was all about showing you why they switched, what you changed, what anything that came up Wednesday is something that you changed or that was changed for you in the timeline because we finished it. But most likely it's going to be something that you, if you really think about whatever, if anything popped up today, it's something that was written differently that's now going to change in a forward movement. And the bubble popped. Anybody else who's on here? We got 4 on here. Have you had a change of energy in the past 3 to 4 days? Everybody, nobody, somebody just like, she's asking me questions now, I'm leaving the building. Okay. What happened was, now, I talk about us having to unwind from the 33 parallel, and that you've got to unwind, and how we set and reset in groups, right? Well, what happened on the 1st is that bubble of all of us working together in the collective that connected and became divergent in this energy takeover to control your avatar on a written timeline, and we became divergent inside it as it was happening. And what happened? We all started walking it. We all started having, we all got major attacked by all types of different black magic and societies and blah 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 blah. All that stuff that happened over the past 3 to 4 years. What was happening is we were inside a big bubble, and they were trying to twist it up, but we're divergent. We remember who we are. We had voice. Our voice and our actions changed the scene that they were trying to write on us. Not only that, because of how they were doing it, it was binding, trying to bind us down. Well, if it's binding, if it's trying to wrap you down, it's trying to bind you down in some way. But then everything's expanding and it's twisting. Then what happens at the ends of these cycles? Because all the energy has to go at some point, because it can't hold a bunch of us activated. The bubble cannot sustain the enormity and the growth of what's happening as we're coming out of this simulation that was projected by Orion, which is also Rigel and raw consciousness, 16 degrees Gemini, 15 and 16. So it's also, it's called an Orion. Basically everything in Gemini is Orion. Bellatrix, Beltages, Hyades, Aldebaran, all Orion. Now, as it got tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter, and this is why a bunch of us that didn't walk shadow, that were like, oh, I'm just a da-da-da starseed, and I'm just happy. Just don't talk about that. Nope, just don't say that. Just don't, no. Well, that worked whenever you're using a flat earth and nothing was moving and you had someone else doing the clearing for you. It doesn't work whenever you're using your own energy. But if you weren't equipped for it in the first round, right? You weren't equipped because we's all hidden here. I mean, we had to take on lifetime, million year counts in order to be deep enough inside the human genome and inside this vector so that we could rise up quickly, connect to the other side, and become divergent the way we are, to where it wasn't even just that we were divergent inside the in-between, with timelines hooked up into us up there and down there, and trying to get these here. So it's like every move that you changed as a collective in that divergent state, as they's trying to twist us, and drill. And the further down it got, the less and less of us could physically be the ones that were having to encounter and face the amount of evil, darkness, crap that we were dealing with. Now, the rest of us were all getting it. We's all feeling it in some way. A lot of them up here were manifesting with it. That's how they made so much so quick, and might have had some instant manifestations. And then the ones in the middle that you were uncoiling from your piece of it, and you were connected to us, so you were feeling it, just like a spout on the sun, just like a sun CME that does like a hook in a rainbow. But as it tightens up, then that bubble gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And for those of us that were reading these low gamma frequencies, the more denser frequencies, And for all those that didn't, you felt some aspect of what I'm talking about, but you might feel it more in 3 to 4 years. But as it twisted down, our world got smaller, and it's like because we were having to echo the dark spells. It was like it created like an echo chamber, and we were having to mirror every single move that they were making. And we were in that for a really long time. We were in that bubble for since at least 2020 altogether. And it was getting bigger and bigger and more denser and denser. So this is how, even at the end, we were getting taught by the ancestors how to reflect the black magic, how to alchemize the energy, how to get out of the tight spot in the ethers, how to do these little tricks of the trade that we know now, inside that bubble, because it became like an echo chamber. Because if you're a bright light, and then you're in a dense area, and it's getting smaller and smaller and denser, because it's trying to bind you deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. It's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And this is how, in the subconscious, we were picking up so much of this, even though we didn't know what we were picking up, even though we didn't have full sight to it. None of us did. But we knew what was going on. Well, that bubble broke. From all the black magic that we undone, from all the curses that we had undone, all that energy that was in that bubble broke. Now, for me, because I was so deep, for me, I'm having to go through a stage of complete rewrite energetically. Energetically, my energy is expanding, and it's expanded so quickly per my energetic perception, because my world was so small at the tip of that hole. So those echoes that were running back and forth, I'm not hearing them. I'm not picking them up. My mind's not having to cipher them and pick them up, which has been, all what we've been dealing with at least since 2021, is that energy being constant. Now, at the same time, though, as we were getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and we had this big bubble, and we popped that last bubble that was connected to all the curses we had undone, and all this black magic, and all this voodoo, and all this tech binding. And you have to remember that we were building a new one in the in-between, that divergent energy, that even that next timeline that we were building. And so it's like, as we were breaking open as that bubble was getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, of the power sources that they were using, that we were taking back, bursting the bubble, alchemizing the energy, taking it back. Well, that was kind of developing another one of these bubbles, what I'm talking about. And that's where we're entering into now, and where a lot of you have been for a minute, which is also why you're always, from the collective's perspective, this has taken too long. And from everything that on my end, I'm early. Everything about that I know about the mission, and when I was supposed to be there, and in each level, and this is just since the existence, my crew and all of us, anybody that's worked with me, we're always early per the cosmic perspective. And I'm not talking about by days. Like this happened. They weren't expecting to see me in that state, in that area, for a really long time. But from the human perspective, a lot of y'all have been in this new bubble energy, feeling what was going on down here, but not necessarily knowing. Now, that bubble that we're entering into won't hit this state that I've been talking about since 2020 until 2024 for another 2 to 3 years. Because all that energy, so just now more people are popping up in it. Now it's hitting a higher frequency. We've got all these timelines and these things that we're connecting. We're still processing through our bodies and connecting with each other etherically in a different way. There's a different magnetism. It's a new physics. It's a lot denser energy than we're all used to dealing with because everybody was so used to 369 Zapoid, right? Now you're having to like flush it all through you. And this bubble that we popped is the densest energy that the human race will ever clear. It hadn't been cleared in like billions of years. What we just, I mean, I know that y'all been feeling it the past few days, and it seemed lighter today for me. But this energy that we're clearing as a collective is the densest energy that will ever clear. That will ever clear. It's hopefully you didn't get hit as bad because it's a little bit different than the energies that we've been having to work in, and there's more of us processing it now because we're more connected. In like 3 years, 2 years, whenever more of these timelines and everybody is kind of like the what you'd call the new earth or the new timelines and all, and we start taking more of those positions, which is going to start happening now quicker by the end, up till now through the end of the year in 2025 is going to be massive. It's going to be massive. But just think about it. It's a bigger bubble. So we're all in it. So right now we're just all still kind of like, connecting to each other in the bubble. After we use that energy and we're connecting with it and we're utilizing it and we're utilizing it and we're utilizing it, then they'll get to a point where some people weren't doing the right thing by it. And there'll be some lower frequency challenges that you're getting wrapped up in, or the rest of the collective is having to clear their karmic stuff from their past lives and how they got there. And it won't be having to deal with Satan and the devil this time, and a black dragon and an Osiris, and this is going to be more what you'd consider man-made timeline stuff for the most part. Even if you are even if they do have to kind of, because it's polarity. I'm just talking about as far as the collective and this next huge wave that's coming in. It won't get tied or wound up for another 2 to 3 years. Then as it does, the shadow walkers and the ones and the ancients will probably get involved a little bit more with some of the alchemy to the masses. And then the shadow leaders, the ones that were from our lineages in different dimensions, for instance, will be taking their places kind of by walking those stories in their timeline. But it'll be clearing different timeline stuff. So for me too, and this is me personally, even me finding out about these 3D things that happened like 10 years ago, 14 years ago, I feel like the reason that it's even just now coming up is because in a weird way, we're just now getting back into the dimension, into the realm. We're not having to deal with these macro energies so much that it finally popped, and it's like, okay, now we're back. Like, now we're back in the timeline. Now we're in a functioning timeline, and it's these things to show us, for me, because they're 3D things on how to set up more moving forward with what we're going to do with the brand. You know, what like I was talking about last time, what character am I going to be in? And I'm changing right now, so I can't even fully put it together how exactly I'm going to come in. But all of that is still fabricating and working to line up as all of this energy fades. And I've been in the hole for so long that it's like I was the one that was sent into the densest, darkest places because I could read it. And when it's not there, it, to me, it's getting used to it not being there. I don't want it there, but my brain is having to get used to it not being there, you know, and not being tied up in it. But then at the same time, the couple of things that do pop up are all 3D things that are showing me exactly how I ended up in the deepest hole. Per 3D stuff, not spiritual stuff, 3D stuff. And the deeper that we get in it, y'all, and the more that's coming in, it's I mean, I keep saying it because I watched that movie today, but it's like Divergence, the second one, Allegiant, wherever they just gassed everybody. I mean, I've been saying this for a while to make you forget who you are, but that's what the Matrix simulation was doing, and it's what they did with vaccines and the geogrids and how they had the towers set up and everything. So I'll probably hang up from here and remember some more things to talk about. The new moon's going to be, let me look and see where it is right now, because it's going to be, it's basically early morning. The other thing is just, if you're like me and these things are changing, 12:40:16. So yeah, it's gonna happen. It's 1:20 a.m. So it'll be early morning when the actual new moon hits. But write down your manifestations. Make sure you write them down today. Write them down. Make them big. Make them really big. Whatever your mind thinks that you're building, then up it 2 notches and write that. And I just saw a TikTok, and I don't know the girl's name, but I liked it. She said, write it and put it under your pillow for the next 3 days. And that makes sense to me, because especially how I've been having to do codes and keep stuff on my bed and keep stuff on my wall and keep different like angles everywhere. So tear them out and put them underneath your pillow. And just remember that you're way more than divergent. It's like first you become divergent, First, you realize that everybody else is being mind controlled. Then you become like Lucy. Then there's a state in this where then everyone else starts noticing you because you're not tuned to them, and energetically you're not putting off the same energy, and then it becomes a Jazdia, and that's a character that we fully haven't seen yet, and neither have I. But it's more printing right in front of you. And with the sun on Venus, I mean, that's probably why I'm not going out a lot right now. Sun on Venus is going to print, because Venus, wherever Venus is, it's, and if you hold a lot of Libra energy, or if you hold a lot of Venus energy, realize that you're the judge, because when you come into this dimension, the more Venus energy you have in your wheel, the more it prints right in front of you. It'll all act out. It's like Venus has a construct to hold the RNA. And so when you activate that, and that's why I've lived through such crazy, crazy, crazy experiences, because every single one of them is something that happened in the past, or what you'd consider the future, with two different factions coming for our energy. And that's why no matter who showed up to play the part, it was always going to play out, because it's in your codes, and it's printing right there for us to call judgment on it. So with sun on Venus and the moon, it's anything that it's gonna print right in front of you. Whatever lines up in front of you, realize that it's like somebody, it's like you picked up all the energy in where you're at, and everyone's playing the parts to show you something. It's like everyone's acting in your own little play. If something happens a little different or off, or like, what the fuck, was that a big hot dog that just blew down the road? I mean, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be traumatic experiences. It can be anything. But with the moon right on top of it, it's also going to be something that's going to emotionally charge you. It's going to be something that's going to emotionally charge you. And that's exactly what happened to me yesterday when I found that information, you know. But then my divergent mind goes, wait a minute, was that even real? I mean, even Biden, is he even real? You know, it's the way that they came in and took over the energetic of the, and how they were doing this it's did it really happen? I mean, we're talking about court documents. I'm talking about court documents right here that look like they had been altered or changed. Because I was there. So I know what really happened. But that paperwork isn't matching up to what really happened. We're talking about, you know, the internet, how it's been, you know, for me, I'll give you me for an example, just so you can look at it in your life. But me, for example, when I go Google my name, Kristen Birch, all that's there is Christina Birch, the astronaut. Well, that wasn't even there a year ago. And why is it Christina Birch, right? Like, for the past 3 years, every time I go pull it up, there's less and less and less and less of who I was even listed on there, and more and more and more and more just stuff that seems it came out of nowhere. That's why I had to start calling myself Chastia. Well, that was my chosen name. Well, I go look that up. Another set of shit. But my point is, they changed it. And if you, the data, my point is in that whole thing is that the data kept getting adjusted to a specific construct. I'm seeing that time because when I first drank the AI, and I've talked about this, when I first had to drink that crap, and I jumped up for like 5 or 6 hours. I was in another dimension, even on the tech, and it's like I was on YouTube, they were saying this guy was Prince, but he wasn't Prince, but he was singing the Prince song, but he looked more like a Saturday Night Live character. And all these crazy movies, I was like, what the hell? Because I had popped into a different dimension of that tech where the ones that I knew who they were, it didn't, they's gone. Is somebody else. Well, there's a lot of those, especially in politics, all over the world, and in the United Nations, and in the entertainment industry. There's a lot of them. But there's also certain ones of them that are supposed to be there that energetically couldn't deal with what all was going on in that bubble, and everybody was tuned to that energy. You know, you 2 or 3 years, you get used to it. You know, you think that you won't get used to the density, but you do, so much so that you stop being able to pick it up and read it. Well, that blew. So it's moving in so many different currents and all over the place. We've got timelines. So this is like if I go on from the story from the last live, and I talked about, okay, we're in the ship, we landed, the little feet are down here. We're all like waking up. We're like waking everybody up from cryo, and we're going, you were out for 2,000 years, and we're like, ah, and then the leaders are like fucking. They got battle scars and shit all over them. They're, we got them patched up. Now they've had a meeting. They've had a meeting. And all of us got together and started talking about it. And now we're like, wait a minute. They just wrote, like, it's all fake. It wasn't real. But we knew this. And so it's like the leaders have gone back and said, all right, we know how to adjust everybody's frequency band. Now we know how to adjust everybody's frequency band. So the orders have been put in, all the little codes are put in to our energetic. Everybody's kind of getting them right now. Everybody. And what it's reminding us is we's built to change this energy. We's built to create in this energy. It's why we were on the ship to begin with. It's why we were on the ship and how we were all connected to begin with. It's why they came after our ship. It's why it's how they've been able to hold the perception in the realm the way that they did, with as long as they did, because of what we had, not what they had. Not what they had. And now here's the extra good part, but it might take you just a little bit longer before you decide to go buy your costumes, because everybody's still dressed like Star Trek. Everybody can't wait to like get off the ship so they don't have to like look like each other. But you might decide that you want to change your wardrobe up a little bit because you originally had a 1950s plan. The original plan, whenever we, if we would have landed whenever at the exact time whenever we were supposed to, without them messing with this, then we had very specific roles. We all had to play very specific roles, and it all worked very specifically. And you took a lot of time to figure out in your consciousness before we jumped on that ship what we were going to do and who we were going to be when we got down here. Well, here's the good news. The good news is you can change that up now a little bit. You can change that up. In fact, you kind of need to, because it's we can't all land and then and like get off the ship and we're all wearing poodle skirts. You kind of got to update it a little bit. You got to change it up a little bit. And now that all of those timelines, guess what? Here's the other good news. Here's the other good news. I know it was shit, but here's the other good news on the loudspeaker. All that karma's been cleared by them. There ain't nobody on our ship that's got to play no type of bad role now. And everybody that was playing the shadow role, I've called it in this week a couple of times, and I'll do it again. You need to negate your shadow role now, and you need to jump back on the ship. But those very specific roles on those very specific timelines that we all had to do whenever we got here originally, if we wouldn't have been lost in space for 2,000 years, then we wouldn't have been able to change that. But guess what? It's already played out. All of it already played out. We haven't even got off the ship yet. Are you following me? We haven't even got off the ship. Now, here's the other thing that's a little confusing maybe too, because those big archetypes that we all proved, and we had to prove so many different types of deities and deal with the dragon orders and collect from all these different blah, 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 that we didn't even really want the power of, but we knew that we had to take it back just so nobody else would have it, so we could merge it into the rest of the line in order to create a different frequency change, not to bottle up a bunch of power for somebody or somebody's line. So those archetypes are going to change depending on how much you're linked into one of those. You're going to have to, merge them together a little more. But the good news is it's already been done. It's already been done. So we're no longer worried about, okay, we got to hit the ground and then everybody's getting to get in position. Now we got to get our ass kicked a bunch of times because we got to go take over the gate and pull down the thing and pull down the fence and blah, 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 blah. Nope, it's already been done. It's already done. It's been going on for the past 7 years. So these next 7 years is we're gonna see it snowballing. We haven't. 2025 is 5 years from 2020. That's why it's such a big deal. We're at the 7 year for 2017. That's kind of like a completion of it, a flip of it, and a complete flip of it. But we're only at 2017 with that. Well, 2017 was, whoop, get your brains completely activated. Government's messing with us, leading us all into places that we're at. We got to clean Venus. We got to plant an Earth. Well, that's why we're going into what feels like a new Earth frequency in this new bubble, because we planted it 7 years ago, not last week, not a month ago, 7 years ago. Now, I know that that sounds like, oh gosh, you got to wait and you got to build and you got to build, you got to build. But here's what I need to remind everybody. Once you get through year one, you're never going to do it again. Once you get through year one of any of it, you're never going to repeat year one again. Once you've done year one, it's going to turn to year two. It's going to turn to year three. It's going to turn to year four. It's going to turn to year five. Going to 6, 7, 8, and we're going to go all the way up to 1,000,000 years. This is why this shift was the most. This was a galactic multi-level marketing, and you're at the top of the pyramid. Congratulations. So remember, whatever you start, this is why you want to track and go back in your healing journey. Go back and look at June. What happened in 2020? What happened in 2019? What happened in 2017? Because you're seeing all of that. That is what's creating your day-to-day in your reality. And this is what's made all of us so stagnant. That's why a lot of us feel so stagnant right now. Well, this is why. This is all the changes that are coming in. These energies coming out. We got the sun is going freaking nuts. The plasma, all these CMEs, the flooding. 138. That's a 111. So we're definitely on plan. So to all my starseed ancients, I don't even know what to call this anymore. We're being called to let go of some of these false mythology things too. We had to come in, we had to claim them, we had to play the characters. Those of us that were involved with it, we's involved with it. But those archetypes no longer fit. That's why I'm going to be on TikTok. I'm coming up with some new ways to get y'all some different information. It's so funny because the more that you're involved with having to clear AI, even through your body or through the codes and tech and blah, 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 it's when you interact with anything in tech, you're creating such a massive freaking wave that because there's so many on it, and whenever you're that conscious in it and connected into your body and you go in and start making those tech changes and building things and doing things, you can't do it like the mindless muggles do. You can't. You'll blow everything up. So you've got to, that's what I'm in the middle of right now, and it feels like it's difficult, and I don't think that it's not. It's not difficult. It's that I feel the energy coming off all the moves and how massive they are, and it's kind of like it comes across to me as difficult, so that I don't move too quick, and that I wait, and I'm waiting for the energetics to connect just like they do. They don't launch a rocket to the moon or to wherever unless all the cosmos is lined up properly. Same thing with when you do things. And that's what I'll be on more talking about, and getting more of a kind of like a schedule and some of that information coming on TikTok and some of it coming over here, and then but in more of a teaching. And that's what everything that I'm involved with here, and with Cohu 32, and what we're bringing out is all in order to assist us in tracking these energies, knowing what kind of give us an idea of what's coming, what energetics coming, what to prepare for as these things keep happening and shifting. Because Basically the same thing that happened this last 7 years is going to happen all over again in a higher energetic, hitting a different set of genomes. And the ones that didn't get out, it'll hit them again. And it'll feel just like they're on a merry-go-round until they get out. Year after year, to where at the end you finally start seeing, oh my God, this has been 5, 6 years, 7 years. And then that's whenever you really start coming out of it, because you've created a space for you to step into. If you didn't, then you just get trapped in the Pleiades. And have to buy somebody else's timeline to exist. Sound familiar? Oh my gosh. That name, what you said there. I'm staying at a home on Birch Street right now. Y'all go look up John Birch Society. I just found it today and it blew my mind. It's really blowed my mind about that family. Like, thank you, Matthew, for being there. Before I went to Detroit, my first trip to Detroit, I had to stop at Matthew's house, and I had to stay at Matthew's house for 2 days before I could even go into Detroit. And it was in Columbus, Ohio, that I had to be for 2 days. But it was always a big deal that I had to go. And that character, Matthew, I did his draconic chart, and I was like, oh my God, what, are you like the real Black Panther or what? Like, like, where'd you come from? His draconic chart was 6 houses from his natal. 6 houses. That's like, literally, that's like a portal opening up and a whole bunch of like Congo warriors coming out of it. So 2 days at Matthews is probably that 2,000 years that I was just talking about. It depending on who you are, because we're all different. But if you're like me and and if you're an RH negative for sure. If you's an RH negative, or if you just have been in with those of us of the collective that were writing all of the collective timelines 10 years in advance before the rest of the collective, then you might even be even more on pause right now, like I am, because see, and this is where it gets to be a mind fuck, because we changed 4 years, okay? So really, 2024 is really 2034. Well, this procession goes to 2000. A regular 36-year procession would go to year 2036, 35. But, like I said, we finished early. And this is why I've been saying 2032 is really when the body stuff is going to be all completed, and completely completed in the masses. But so we changed. So it's like we shortened the cycle, and we changed 4 years. So 2014 should have lined up with 2024, should have lined up to 2034, right? But we changed 2000, that started changing 2018 in the timelines. So there's your 2014 to 2018. So then and then that's how, and everything started spinning out because we were changing it, and two realities were being formed. So that changes the whole thing, and you're kind of coming back from somewhere where the whole collective won't ever be conscious and go again. Because we traveled what the collective was heading for. That's why we were here to change it. So where we've been, this next wave never got there. And those timelines are like collapsing. So, and if you're like me, and because my whole life is Kristen Birch, literally, because I was adopted and all that shit. My whole life as Kristen Genzel, and then later on Kristen Birch, the whole 51 years was all to break the spell that they just did to the collective. And there's a lot of us out there. You might just not have figured this whole part out yet. It's why you named yourself the way you did. It's why everything happened in your life. You have been sidestepping it your whole life because they were going to turn around to put the karma on you anyway. So basically, a lot of us, our whole lifetime was here to pay for the karma of the bullshit that they were going to tag on our field that they just did. But we already cleared it, we already cleared it. But they just harnessed us with it. And I'll end it with this, because this is the part that really. So basically, in essence, anybody that just signed up to put their karma on you or on me or on the collective, and they had a bunch of timelines that they just threw on us and said, okay, now you go clean the national debt, and you go clean Saddam Hussein, and you go clean. This is what they were doing. They threw it on us again. We'd already cleared it, and we're not even in it anymore. So it didn't magnetize to us. So they had us clear it so that they could strap us into it again, so that they could run their character off of it. Well, like I just said, there's no magnetism. We're not in it anymore. So number one, they can't even repeat that character. Number two, those of us who cleared it our whole lifetime have all the power and have all of the infrastructure and resources in our etheric, not them. This is why they're so mad. This is why they were coming after me so bad. But it is the way it is. But we're just holding it for the rest of the collective to get up here so they can't rerun it, basically. But this is why there's so much change that's happening. That whole John Birch thing, oh Lord. Oh my God. And even the story about how Hardin, I'm in the Hardin line. Well, this is why I know so much about clearing all black magic and death energy. John Wesley Hardin is basically Young Guns. Young Arizona is what they call them. But it's basically Billy the Kid. Well, if they put you in the family and then they go kill a whole bunch of people or try to take over a planet or this and this and that, guess who? Then and you pay the and in the old energy you paid the karma from the father and blah 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 blah. I mean, we weren't ever doing nothing, but we paid the karma for it. Right, state of Texas? And that's what type of stuff we're dealing with because of all the government crap and all the bullshit that they had set up on us and tried to ruin our name. And I mean, if you went and pulled government documents on my name, you would read nothing but horrible lies. Because our whole life, you already took our house, you already took our company, you already put in all those government lies, you already did all that in order to try to make it happen to us, because that's how that 6D worked, but it didn't. So now what? Everybody's gonna find out the truth. Happy new moon. And we're flipping these sixes upside down. And by the way, if you go watch Wages World, because it was on when I got on here, there's a giant 9. It looks like a bunch of sunspots. It made a big crater, and it looks like a giant 9 on the sun right now, forming with 3, like, CME vortexes. They look like 3 tornadoes that are all aligned, that are on the bottom, and we're shooting through Orion. And Orion is Microsoft. Orion is that 6D simulation mind current. I'll be back. Bye. Please like and share.